Welcome to Greater Good Radio, the show that develops tomorrow's leaders by bringing you up close and personal with today's top business people. I'm Evan Leong, and with me is my co-host, Carrie Leong. You can also visit us online at greatergoodradio.com.
Thank you, Evan. Today we're featuring HALE and KIMI Takazawa. They're a young married couple who were both raised with the traditional beliefs to go to a good school, do well in college, and get a good job. They both had good jobs in the mainland, but decided to return to Hawaii to be closer to their families. Upon coming back, they decided to start their individual businesses and start a family. HALE owns Pacific Atelier, and KIMI is a prior owner of Daisy Dog, Inc. Welcome, HALE and KIMI.
Hi.
Thanks. Hi, thanks.
HALE, can you tell us a little bit about your civil engineering business at Pacific Atelier?
Oh, Pacific Atelier is an architectural firm, and we practice architecture, design, interior design, planning, and we mainly do a lot of planning and design for clients on the island.
Can you give us an example of a few of those clients?
Yeah, we do a lot of master planning for Ko'olina, which is Jeff Stone out there in Ko'olina. They do a lot of resort development. And we also have a lot of projects out on Kona, which are multifamily units that are selling like hotcakes out there.
So everything from commercial to residential? Anything from large projects?
Right. Primarily commercial and high-end residential, resort-type residential or planned developments.
Okay. How many employees are in your company?
And we have 13 employees, and I have one partner.
Prior to coming back to Hawaii, what were you doing in New York?
I was an architect in New York for a couple years. And I got to work on projects in the World Trade Center. There was a lot of money flowing into New York at the time with the dot-com boom. So we got to do a lot of fun projects. And we got married and we moved back to Hawaii. And there's a whole story about that. I guess we can get into that.
Yeah, sure. Why don't you share that with us?
Oh, this is my side of the story. I guess it changes, but
then we'll get to the real side.
Yeah.
So after coming back from New York and getting married, we were living out in Hawaii Kai and trying to figure out
Valley, like the last bastion of Honolulu before Waimanalo. And especially like living in New York City, like in a studio, you're surrounded by people.
We lived in a shoebox.
Yeah.
Basically,
but you're always around
feet.
people. Kalama Valley was very far away, especially for like a city girl like me. So it was kind of shocking.
Suburbia.
I couldn't go downstairs to get a drink of water by myself.
This is when real estate prices were cheap now because we didn't have a lot. But I started practicing just out of home. I set up a desk there. I had a computer. Picked up a couple clients doing a house on Noella Drive where I was lucky. And
that's Diamond Head, right?
Diamond Head, yeah. And some other smaller projects. And one of my mentors at the time had told me he needed some help. And part of it was he had a small company as well that was they were just bleeding red all over the place. So he also needed some help from me. So I kind of subcontracted with him and did some work there.
So you were part of his organization or just purely subcontractor?
Purely subcontractor at the time. So this went on for a few months, and I realized that his company they were in the red. He had another partner, and they were ready to go out of business probably within a few months.
Was that primarily because they had too much employees or staff? Or
at the time, they only had 4 people, and they were working on some great projects. They had some homes. They had a few commercial projects. Usually when you start out as an architect, on your own, you get homes or you get additions and little things, and then you kind of work your way into things. And this company had already done the Maui Ocean Center, which I had helped them on. And so they had actually had some really nice projects. And just because architects we're terrible businessmen, we just don't know how to manage money. We're just very creative people, and it's the nature of the way that architects are. It's just the way our brain is wired. We're not very linear thinkers. We're nonlinear. So businesses don't often do well, especially architectural firms. They're kind of like starving artists. So what happens is one of the partners decided he wanted to go to the mainland to find more work in the Bay Area, which was booming at the time as well. This was in 1998, and he kind of managed the books from San Francisco while the firm was in Honolulu, and they were cranking on work. I mean, they were just cranking on work, but there was no money coming in. It was just being burnt and spent, and no clients were coming in from San Francisco, and we're kind of scratching our heads wondering, what is this guy doing out there in San Francisco? So at that point, my partner Fabrizio and I, now he's a partner now, but at that time we had a discussion, and he said, do you want to come in as a partner? So I said, okay, sure. And we convinced the other guy in San Francisco, and I said, I'll come in only if we can move the books and the management of the company back here. And he can go and find jobs or whatever he wants to do, but we need to control the operations here, because this is where our employees are. This is where we're working with our consultants, our engineers, and so forth. So
that's part of your managing your risk as well, though, right?
Yeah, so I could manage my own risk, because I was getting into a company that basically they owed tax to every taxing agency that you could go, including the IRS, payroll tax, that's the Hawaii State GET tax, pretty much every agency that you owe a bill to when you run a business. We owed it, about $70,000 worth of it.
Why did you choose to become a partner in that instead of start your own firm with your Fabrizio, and then buy the assets or buy the clients, so that you're not encumbered by the other portion? We
had thought about that, and so Pacific Atelier had been started in 1996, so it was about 2 years old. They were just getting off the board. They had good clients. They had building kind of a name and a portfolio for themselves. And in architecture, it takes, unless you're like a superstar, and even superstars, it takes at least 10 years to build your portfolio that you can show people that you actually are doing significant work. So we said, well, let's try and stick it out. Just buy out the other partner, kick them out, and then take it on from there. So with knowing that plan B would be, okay, he doesn't want us sell out, so we'll just have to quit and start a new company.
Okay.
But luckily, we didn't have to do that. We bought him out. He wanted $250,000 for his share, even though we were worth -70. And so we settled for something like $15,000 or something like that.
That's a pretty good negotiation.
So, but at that point, Jeff Stone had just bought Coalina. And the projects, and we got lucky, and he started asking us to do a lot of planning types of work. We weren't a big firm, but we had a lot of imagination, a lot of good ideas.
Who brought Jeff Stone in?
That was my partner Fabrizio. They had been working together for a few years, and he was doing just renovations for Jeff on his house.
Oh.
And so you kind of build relationships that way. A lot of times it's just doing homes or small things for wealthy clients or who are potentially wealthy, and at that point intention takes in, and it just carries you. You just don't know where it's going to go, and you just got to learn to follow it, and you just fill that gap. Whatever happens, you just go with it and take off.
You're listening to Greater Good Radio, the show that develops tomorrow's business leaders by bringing you together with today's top business people.